Episode 40, The Special Room. Bhalpur was a small village with about 3,500 inhabitants. The villagers' main source of income was agriculture and through selling milk produced by their buffaloes. The legendary Dr. Kurian had visited the village early in his career and encouraged the villagers to sell their buffaloes' milk to the cooperative. Manu Bhai, the minister, first heard of the village through some radio jockey who was interviewing the woman sarpanch of Bhalpur. Bas fir, Manu Bhai decided to visit the school there along with his friends of the press and propagate Bhalpur as an example of a village that educated its girls and had a woman sarpanch. The education department was informed of the minister's decision to visit Bhalpur in the month of July. Urmila Devi was initially very thrilled to learn about the minister's proposed visit. But then her euphoria turned to nervousness and fear. The school building in the village was in shambles. Girls from the village were, just enrolled on paper. No teaching happened at all. In fact, the two teachers appointed at the village school only came there once in a month. They would visit Urmila Devi's house, take stock of the money and accounts allotted for the midday meal scheme, help her in domestic chores, and bring anything that the sarpanch wanted from the city. A convenient arrangement for both parties, you see. When the education department officers visited the school, they found that the building needed urgent repairs and that the school itself was non-functional. Urmila Devi and the two teachers were immediately summoned. The collector asked her to see to it that girls from every house of the village were made to attend the school. Two teachers from another school were temporarily shifted to Bhalpur school. Now, the biggest problem was that there were no toilets in the school. An inquiry was conducted. The deputy collector or Urmila Devi couldn't satisfactorily answer what happened to the grants allotted for construction of toilets in the school. Urmila Devi's answer that the contractor took the money and vanished wasn't really accepted, and the officers suspected some misappropriation of funds. The toilets were built overnight, but now a new problem arose. Urmila Devi requested the deputy collector to construct 4 toilets, one for upper caste girls, one for lower caste girls, and the same for the boys. But the deputy collector refused. In government grants, there was no policy of caste-based discrimination at all. So it had to be just 2 toilets, one for the girls and one for the boys. Urmila Devi didn't like this. And at night, when the village panchayat met, she made it clear that boys and girls of the lower castes wouldn't be allowed to use the toilets in the school. Alka hated the school. She already had so much of housework to do and also take care of her 3 younger siblings. And now this school business also. The sarpanch had personally instructed Bapu to send Alka to school. Alka knew the alphabet and she could count till 1000. But then, when the old Masterji died, the school had become totally neglected. That is why girls of Bhalpur were largely illiterate. Alka almost dragged herself to the school. She was already late and now had to face an irritated Jyoti teacher who was forced to come daily to the school now. Jyoti teacher had become quite short-tempered. Alka reached her classroom, sat down, but her mind was occupied by all the domestic chores that were still pending at home.
Alka, સાંભળતી કેમ નથી?
Alka was jostled out of her reverie. She looked up. Jyoti teacher shouted,
Read the next paragraph from 4th chapter. Fatafat.
Alka began to read, but her reading was full of mistakes.
When the minister will come, it is because of this girl that our school and village will get a bad name.
Alka looked up and was shocked to see Urmila Devi staring at her angrily. Urmila Devi shouted,
Start reading properly. That DC Saab will come today. And if you can't answer correctly, the entire village will pay the price. Then don't blame me, for allotting lesser water for your Bapu's fields.
Alka was scared now. Bapu's fields were on the hilly slope, so taking water upwards was a challenge in itself. If Urmila Devi stopped his supply of water, then the entire fields would dry up and Alka would be blamed for it. Oh God! Suddenly Alka felt the pressure on her bladder. She wanted to rush out and relieve herself in the nearby fields. But the school gates were closed. As Alka thought more and more about the water, the lessons, Urmila Devi, Jyoti teacher, the minister, the more she felt the urge to use the toilet. She wondered how long will she be able to control this urge. The school was now distributing milk and Alka greedily gulped one full glass. But that increased the pressure on her bladder. Her friend Sushila whispered in her ear,
You go out to drink water. Jo, the toilet is right behind the water matkas. Use it. No one will come to know.
Alka went out. But the very sight of water put more pressure on her bladder. Suddenly, Sarla teacher came out in the courtyard. In sheer desperation, Alka reached out to the matka and drank water. Alka's mind had become blank. She looked longingly at the toilet. It was empty. She could have gone inside, relieved herself, and come out in less than a minute. But if Sarla teacher saw her, God, it would be the end of the world. Just then, there was the sound of a jeep stopping outside. All the teachers and Urmila Devi rushed out to greet the officials. In the ensuing commotion, Alka escaped and did not stop till she reached the fields and relieved herself. But when the officer checked the attendance register and then took the roll call in the 7th grade, instead of 16 girls, there were just 15. The officer got angry on everyone. That night, Urmila Devi lost her temper very badly at Alka's Bapu. She threatened to cut off the water supply to Bapu's fields completely. Bapu slapped Alka, making her cry, and she felt so scared about the minister's visit now. When the great day arrived, the students weren't allowed to leave school. Alka was praying fervently to not feel an urge to relieve herself. Today, everyone was keeping an eye on her, so running away was impossible. Alka's discomfort began when around 10:30 a.m. the students were given some chaas. Alka drank the buttermilk greedily, but that made her bladder fuller. She wanted to go out to the fields and relieve herself, but today there was no chance of running away. As the clock neared the noon time, so did Alka's desperation to use the toilet. She sat in a dazed manner, not able to concentrate on anything at all. She had locked her legs together tightly so that she could suppress her urge to pee. Around midday, most of the students had got bored and exhausted. Alka was again in a bad shape. Her mental stress had further burdened her bladder. She didn't know what to do now. The minister finally arrived at around 2 p.m. He beamed at the press and gestured to the collector. The collector came forward and announced, "Hello, listen everyone. Minister Saab has a special kit for the 7th standard girls. As the teacher calls out your name, please step forward and receive your kit." The sarpanch, teachers, the officials, and a few villagers all burst into claps. The press brigade rushed inside the small classroom and began to capture the kit distribution. Urmila Devi proudly announced,
For the girl students, we have handkerchiefs, 2 hand towels, a book on hygiene, a packet of sanitary napkins, and a small soap. We are spreading the message of cleanliness. Under the Swachhta Abhiyan, Minister Saab has got toilets constructed in our school. We want our girls to use the toilets and maintain cleanliness and hygiene.
Again, there was a burst of applause. At the mention of toilet, Alka's urge to relieve herself went a notch higher. She wasn't able to think of anything else. Jyoti teacher began calling out names. Alka was so desperate that she folded her hands and began to pray. Suddenly, a reporter saw her in that condition and began clicking her photographs. The others too turned towards Alka. Everyone thought that she was overwhelmed with the kit she was about to receive from the minister. Manu Bhai turned to Urmila Devi. Please bring this girl here, Sarpanch ji. I will give her 2 kits and rupees 501 from my side.
Arey Alka, come here.
When Alka opened her eyes, she was stunned to see everyone surrounding her and the press brigade clicking her. Alka couldn't dare to stand up. Urmila Devi widened her eyes and tried to threaten Alka. Sushila nudged her to get up. Terrified, with no option available, Alka stood up. She didn't dare to take a step. Urmila Devi pulled her towards the minister. But the moment Alka's legs got unlocked, she couldn't control her bladder. In view of the entire gathering, a dark yellow pool gathered around Alka's feet. Manu Bhai's feet and the clothes of a few girls got soiled. Chaos broke out. The minister was furious. The girls shrieked. Jyoti teacher picked up a duster and threw at Alka. And Urmila Devi's palm came crashing on Alka's cheek.